if you're rushing into bets, if you're panicking into bets, if you're thinking, I just need to get the bets, you've already lost.
What is your source of truth?
I don't really know that I've ever considered any book to be a source of truth on anything.
Losing doesn't mean that you're wrong. Losing over the long term does.
The Behind the Lines podcast is proud to be sponsored by SXBet, the world's most sophisticated crypto betting exchange. Millions traded every month with 0% fees, all on the chain. Never fight for a withdrawal. Your money is always yours using advanced wallet technology. Fair, transparent, and limitless. Bet on SX.
Welcome in. It's Behind the Lines, purifying sports betting, winning with SX. I'm Shane Pace here. We got Gosu 2 on today's show. How to win in 2026. NFL playoffs divisional round ahead of us, and Pace has a Chubb story he wants to share. Can't wait to get to that. All right, guys, how we doing? It was another banger of a weekend at In Play Live. Back-to-back weekends. Absolutely electric. So much fun. NFL wildcard weekend delivered for us. Delivered in entertainment and delivered in profits. So how you guys feeling as we sort of come off the weekend?
I'll let John answer this one first.
Oh, I feel great. It's been like a huge run for us. So bankroll's never been bigger. Feeling good. I'm a little under the weather, but outside of that, I feel great.
Yeah, awesome. Pace.
Yeah, so bankroll's booming. Couple of the biggest weeks we've probably ever had. Tons of fun, and really what the community's all about. I always like to remind people, I mentioned this on the primer yesterday, that it's a really good time to remember some of the times that things weren't as great as bettors, because when you have this sort of euphoria of like everything hitting or, just doing really well, I think it's important to kind of stay level and recognize those times and know that they're coming back, and then vice versa, right? When you're in those losing times, recognizing that is a part of variance, that is a part of being a pro, and it'll really help you manage those times when these great ones are around the corner. So yeah, obviously I'm not at home right now. I'm in Vegas, and we hit the casino floor last night after the game had ended. The Steelers Texans game had ended, and oh my God, we just had so much fun. So we had the Leafs money line on a physical ticket, and Shane, you'll appreciate this. I had no idea the Leafs are playing the Knights here on Thursday. And Toronto's not like a simple sort of blitz over to Vegas type situation. So a lot of people come for the week. Right. So we kind of were like, we had come downstairs. We knew the game was tied. We maybe $100 on red type thing, $100 on a hand of blackjack, just, sort of messing around. We've got a couple cocktails in our hands. And Scotty's just like, we got to go watch this thing in at the sports book. I got to watch this game. And of course, when you're at the sports book, you got to put your phone away because the feed's like 2 minutes behind. It's just hilarious.
Yeah.
You know what else I find funny? The sports book it wasn't packed, but there was quite a few people in there. No one else checks like the books or the lines or, the scores or anything, which would spoil it for the viewers, obviously. So we head into the sports book, and everyone is cheering for Toronto. And that's when, of course, we found out that the Knights were playing Thursday, because they all let us know. There's people from London, Ontario, and all over Ontario, all there cheering.
Oh, love it. My province in the house. Let's go.
We got some more Leafs fans here. And I'm like, fuck that. I just got a big bet on them. But we said to them, we'll buy everyone around if the Leafs win. So
whoa. How many people is everyone?
Well, we had so many drink tickets because we actually bet quite a bit of money on our two physicals yesterday. We hit the Kraken before then, and then Scott's always got to have one. So he sprinted downstairs after Seattle won to get the Leafs in. And meanwhile, I'm sitting there going, you're trying to go get a physical ticket and you're missing live bets because you're going to do this. And he's like, I got to have one. Right. So, sort of that Vegas degenerate mindset. yeah. So anyways, we had a stack of drink tickets and gave them all away to everyone that was at the book, but just an electric experience. But yeah, a lot of fun.
Sounds like a great time, man. Wow. All right. So you're and here you are up the next morning, ready to go for the podcast. Look at you go, man.
Yeah, never a doubt.
Never a doubt. No, never. Right, John? We knew all along that he was going to make it for this.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get into the NFL divisional round. It was super awesome wild card weekend, especially the first 4 games. The second 2 games, maybe not, ranking very high among fans, but especially that pathetic performance from the Steelers. That was just god awful. That was hard to watch. But here we are heading into the divisional round, and we've got some pretty tasty matchups. John, what do you like?
Yeah. So the interesting first game, the Bills Broncos, is basically a pick. I think that line's pretty fair. The Broncos have been I think overperforming all season based on the level of execution they've had. They came from behind so many games. Fortunate to not have more losses. So I don't really have much in that game. The next game on Saturday, Niners Seahawks. The Seahawks 7.5 point favorites over the Niners. Now, I make this closer to towards 3, but I will say I understand the line. So you're playing a short week. You just flew cross country, so the Niners had to go all the way to Philly from California, and then they got to go back across the country to Seattle on a short week. Their body's poisoned with electromagnetism, and Kittle's out now. So just a lot of things, they're just dropping like flies every week. So I get that one. I really like the under in that game, under 45.5. I think that's fairly high. That the Niners offense got shut down by Seattle. And I think Seattle's game plan, McDonald's a really conservative play caller, or not play caller, but conservative game planner until we've seen him with a huge lead in the fourth quarter and him just throwing bombs. It's kind of like he lets it out when they're up ahead or they're up. But I think a conservative game plan, don't let Sam Darnold beat them there. So I like the under 45.5 in that game.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, we're expecting absolutely beautiful weather in Seattle. Like it's going to be the perfect temperature for football, no cloud in the sky type stuff. That's what we're looking at. So at least, the Seattle home advantage of crazy rain and the 12th man coming out. The 12th man will be there, but I think the Niners are probably more conducive to a nice sunny day than playing in the pissing rain in Seattle.
Yeah. John, I'm really glad that you sort of confirmed what I was thinking there, because when I saw that line open at 7.5, I was like, are they insane? I'm like, this is nuts. To be on the other side of 7, I was shocked. But at the same time, I was like, okay, I kind of get it. No Kittle and the Niners haven't exactly been outstanding, especially on defense. But it's still these are divisional rivals. They know each other really well. It's a playoff game. I would say that San Fran probably has the coaching advantage. They've got a more experienced quarterback who's been to a Super Bowl, nearly won it. It's 7.5 just seemed nuts to me. So I'm glad you came in with that. And before we move on, I should have recapped your picks from last week, because you had a pretty good week. You went Carolina +10 winner, Chicago money line winner, San Fran Philly under 45.5 winner. Lost the Jags, lost the Steelers, but certainly came out well ahead there.
It was good. I think the Jags should have won that game. We got to give the credit to the Bills for hanging around and grinding that one out. But Trevor Lawrence really just, against a very poor Bills defense, had some really, really. I think he had something like 7 turnover worthy plays according to PFF. That's incredibly difficult to do. I mean, that's like half a season for a lot of players. So to do it in one game is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, and to have the Bills defense, which has been pretty bad all season long, come up with a big pick at the end of the game to win the game for their team. That was kind of sort of fun to see and unexpected.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. Let's go. I guess we're heading over to the AFC.
Yeah. So Sunday afternoon, I really like the under in the Patriots game. Kind of the same reasoning as the Seahawks game. I think just a muted offense. We've seen Vrabel. This Patriots team, I think sometimes this season they've gotten into some wild shootouts because that defense hasn't been great. But now we've seen Vrabel with a chance to game plan here in the playoffs, and he's back to his old rock fighting ways. So like the under 41.5 there. Houston clearly has an incredible defense. I think that one's just going to be a grinder. So I'll take that. And I would caveat with all these unders that we've really seen a flurry of points at the end of these games. I mean, even in that Texans game last night, we kept joking about when do we take the over? When do we take the over? I think the Texans scored 24 points.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter, 23 points in the fourth quarter because that missed PAT at the end. So it just happens finding a way at the end of these games. So that didn't happen in the Patriots game. So I would just say when you get ahead on these, we're looking to middle these live, or not necessarily middle, but we're looking at that live, getting on and over. Teams are desperate at the end of these games. So, it's just when we get ahead, definitely want to look at something on the over side.
Yeah. Give yourself a nice little middle there.
Yeah.
All right. Final game. It's the Rams going to Chicago.
Yep. The Rams road favorites once again. This line opened at 3.5. It's up to 4 at a lot of places. I understand why this is. I mean, well, you look at it and you say, well, Green Bay was a 1.5 point favorite in Chicago, so the Rams are 2 points better than that. I suppose that logic kind of holds, but I think I actually just have a little bit more of a respect for the Bears in the market now, which is ironic because I've talked about how lucky and how I can't wait to bet against them all season, but I just didn't expect the numbers to be this far off. So I think, the +4, I would wait. I think this number might continue to rise. I think for whatever reason, people seem to think the Rams are just an unstoppable machine. They almost lost to Carolina last week. So I like the +4 here. I won't take that yet. Like I said, I'm going to wait and hope for a even better number, 4.5. You're alive to get in the back door with Chicago. That offense, I think the Rams defense has some holes. Also, it's the outdoor teams playing on the road in the cold. I think only Stroud and the Texans. I mean, and Stroud, their offense did not look good against the Patriots. They just came away, or against the Steelers.
Against the Steelers,
their defense was really what showed up in that game. But I think it's supposed to be like 15 degrees Fahrenheit in this game. Windy, I'm sure, like it is in Chicago. Another indoor quarterback going on the road here in frigid temperatures. So I'll take my chances with the home team as an underdog once again.
Okay, +4, hoping for 4.5.
Yeah, so you can get a little low juice 4 right now. So you could go buy 4.5 at like -117. I wouldn't do that. I think we'll get a normal number there. So I'm just going to wait on that one.
All right. Wow, there we go. That's what we're looking at. So just to recap, no bet on the Bills, Broncos, which, by the way, I think that line opened at -1.5 Broncos, and now it's -1.5 Bills. So it seems like things are shifting towards the Bills side there. At least the market's moving towards the Bills side. But no pick there. So San Fran, Seattle under 45.5, Houston, New England under 45.5, and Rams at Chicago +4, and waiting to get +4.5.
Yep.
There we go. All right, great stuff. Okay, Pacer, over to you, because John, you were on stream last night, and anybody who was on the In Play live stream last night got to see Pace celebrate a Nick Chubb victory with some Chubb-like dancing going on while he was in Vegas there. He had some pretty awesome moves. Hopefully we can show you guys that here on the show. Chesto, if you can edit that in for us, people want to see it if they missed out. They got to see Pace celebrating his Nick Chubb over on rushing prop bet in that game.
Chubb. Let's Chubb.
But Pace, you also have another Chubb story. So tell us about the bet you made yesterday, and then tell us about your Chubb story.
Well, the thing I got to say is if we're on to carrots and sticks, I've taken up the segment the last 2 times. So I want to let you guys start, and then I'll close her out. So we wanted to talk about in this segment, like your favorite win or your worst beat of the previous week, or perhaps from the last couple of weeks, given that I've taken up all the time. So Shane, I don't know if you have any on the list that you'd want to share from your personal betting from these last couple of weeks.
Oh, from the last couple of weeks? Wow. Okay, where would I go if I'm looking at? I'm not going to go too far back because it's like, geez, where am I going to go for the last couple of weeks? But okay, well, I'll just mention the two that I enjoyed the most from last night. And I said that before. I think we got on stream here. Seattle Kraken -1.5. That bet looked totally dead. We got a massive number on it. I think I got in at 2.8. On that, or plus 180. It was just a great spot, great number. And then the bet looked totally dead. And then bang, winner right at the end of the game. So that was a lot of fun. One where it looked like it was over, gone and dead, marked it as a 0 on the tracker. And then boom, we got a W there. And then the other one that I'll mention is I did in fact take the over in the Houston Pittsburgh Steelers game last night when I just saw them unable to score for as long as they went. And I think, the total got down to 23.5 was the lowest I saw it get to. I got in at 25.5 because I just said to myself, I'm like, I have not seen a playoff game finish this low. And I think that somehow, some way, there will be some points. And I actually thought that it might be the Steelers' defense that came up with a score. I thought if the Steelers are going to score any points, the way it's looking, it's probably going to be the defense. It turns out
Stroud had the ball on the ground probably like half a dozen times in that game.
Multiple times through a couple of picks, and I'm thinking the Steelers are going to get one here. The Steelers' defense is going to get one here. Turned out it was the Houston defense that got it done for me. So that was one that I was happy to see come through. John, what about you?
Yeah, I'll share a good beat that is not mine, but from a guy that the stream knows well, referred to as lock of the century, and then I'll give a bad beat of my own. But so he had a good beat last night, similar to you. He had a pregame teaser on the game where he had the Texans teased through 0 to +4 and the over teased down to 30.5. So he had a -147 point teaser where he teased a total and through 0, which is in the world of negative EV bets has to be up there. So he's sitting with his over 30.5 that he needs to come through, and he gets that pick 6 from Rodgers at the end of the game to get in there, and he claims he's going to go on Instagram Live with a bottle of lotion, but I don't know that he did, but it's what he said he was going to do. So one for the good degenerates out there, and then for me for a bad beat, I want to go. This is a call we had on stream. This is from December 29th. This is a Golden State Warriors at the Brooklyn Nets NBA game. We had under 226 flat as the official call on the stream, and the Warriors, Curry goes to the line. He hits free throws to go up 10 with 45 seconds left.
Oh God, the
Nets go down the floor and they miss a layup. They're down 10 with 30 seconds left. They don't foul. So in the NBA, it's pretty common, and sometimes in college you'll see this. But for those who don't know, when you're the team winning, even though you can't dribble the clock out with if there's only 5 or 6 second difference, right? You just take a turnover, a shot clock violation, you hand the ball to the other team, and then they do it, and the game ends. Well, it's also customary sometimes for someone like Steph Curry, who didn't have a turnover in the game, to not want to get the turnover on his stat sheet. So he gives the ball to a scrub at the end of the game. This happened to be someone named Will Richard, who I honestly don't know that I'd heard of until that game. And he hands it to him, and with 8 seconds left, this guy just pulls up and shoots a mid-range jumper. And seeing that he's going to do this in disrespectful fashion, a Nets player, Terrence Mann, flies across the court and just basically mauls him while he's in the air taking the shot. And it would be one thing if he just got fouled and they called it and he made his free throws and we pushed. He actually made the shot and got an and one and then made the free throws, so we lost our bet.
Oh.
So in the NBA, you almost never see teams shoot like that, especially after they've already given an indication that the game is over. And not only did they shoot, he made the shot, got fouled shooting it, and made the free throw to make us lose our bet.
But the reason he got fouled in the first place was because of the fact that they showed that they were dribbling out, and that's disrespectful to dribble out and then
Extremely
shoot.
disrespectful.
What are you doing? I would imagine even in that spot, Curry would have said, like, dude, we were dribbling out. Like,
I saw Draymond Green gave him a talking to after the game, although Draymond Green maybe not the best person to take lessons from on respect toward other people, but clearly just a young guy who was happy to get a shot off there at the end of the game.
Well, Draymond would have given him an earful.
We were already ready to shoot the guns on the stream.
That's the thing, right? When we see the dribble outs in the NBA, we're ready to celebrate right then and there. But a great reason to just hold off till you see zeros.
That is the thing about bad beats, is that when you hear other people's stories, you can almost just like brush it off your shoulder. Because even that one, we're like, are you fucking kidding me? But you just have to move on,
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, guys. So this is Texans Steelers, my Nick Chubb story that you guys don't know about yet. So these numbers are going to blow your mind. And this is again, Scotty. The game's about to start, and he comes up to me and he goes, Pace, you have to max out like Nick Chubb's alternate max markets because Juwan Jordan is out and the numbers for Chubb are just too low. So this number is going to blow your mind. Chubb is 10 yards per game. That's his line. Okay. And I think it's like 2 or 3 carries. That's it. Right. So max out his carries. It's 9 carries for the game. Max out his yards. It's like, it's 47.5 yards. You parlay them together, it's 90-1.
Wow.
Okay? 90.0. So Scott can't bet because he's just lost his account, and he's screaming at me. He's like, you have got to get us down on this bet. Meanwhile, I just had a monster Sunday. I haven't made a bet on these accounts. I haven't gone through my typical maintenance Monday of, seeing where I'm at with things, seeing what I need to do for the week ahead to make sure that I have the sports books that I need because I was traveling to Vegas. So I'm like, okay, I see the line. I'm like, Scott, look at this. 90-1. Like it was his idea. And then I showed him like, we have to hit this, right? So we go to put $500 down on it to split it. Pays 45,000. He's like, do 1,000. I'm like, okay. So go to spin 1,000. It says bet's too high.
I was going to say, no way they're letting you spin that.
Pays 90,000. Doesn't go in. Go to bet 500 to win 45,000. I'll leave that at that. So Nick Chubb comes out on the field. I think it's like, I don't know what drive it was, but it's fairly early in the game. He gets 4 carries. He looks absolutely electric. We're kind of going, holy smokes. And that's around the time that I was like, Chubb is now 7 more yards for the game. So I called it out to the stream and called it out to bet larger than what we typically would on a bet like that. So I doubled the unit size up. And then in the chat, I had mentioned that I was adding to it again. So, definitely had a bit of money on him, but it kind of looks like Chubb's not coming back out. Right. It's all Woody Marks. Texans at the time is still just 7-6. Every time they got down there, couldn't score or threw a pick. So it's a tight game, and you're probably not going to lean on your backup too much. So then Texans get a head, and out comes Chubb. So Chubb gets a whack load of carries in that last drive, and his very last carry of the game was his 10th carry. He needed 9, and his last carry got him exactly to 48 yards. So the 90-1 comes through. But are you thinking, oh, that's why Pace was dancing? No, we couldn't get $1 down on it. So we never actually bet it. So we talk about bad beats and different things.
Hold on. You tried to spin 1,000. No. You tried to spin 500. No. You tried to spin anything at all and nothing.
400, 300, 200, 100. I'm like 50. I'm like, this account's done, Scott. So that's a part of winning. And he couldn't get past it. He's like, I can't believe it. I can't. And I'm like, Scotty, don't worry about it, man. It was the right read, good bet, all this kind of stuff. And it was right before kickoff. Like we were, it's not like I could just be like, oh, call this person. We were down to the final seconds clicking before the game, and then the market disappeared, right? And this is the thing, right? Is like preparation when it comes to winning, because I know that's going to be our next segment, is such a key element of things. And you might not have that opportunity again for an entire season where you get a number in situation like that and then it actually coming through. So the books were just in unbelievably mispriced on him last night. Yeah, we didn't win or lose. We didn't place the bet.
But do you got the live bet in?
Oh, big time. Yeah.
Oh,
I hammered Nick Chubb for 7 more yards last night. Like that was one of my bigger bets.
Okay. So at least you got that. But
absolutely. I wasn't dancing just purely riding on Vegas.
Yeah.
I was doing it because I won some money. Yeah.
I was gonna say there's no way you had that celebration without getting any money on it. Glad you were able to get the live wager in. That sucks though, to get a great read on a 90-1, have it hit, and you just couldn't get any money on it. That's tough, man.
Water under the bridge, throw it off your shoulder. Great read. Had we have had more time, probably some calls to some people would have gone in to see if we could get down on it. But it's one of those things too, where when you see a line like that, you can't bet a lot on it. And typically you're like, well, yeah, I want this action, myself, because it's you can't bet too much on it. And it pays so much that you're like, yeah, I'll take my lottery ticket shot at it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, well, great read there. Sorry that you weren't able to get more down on it or get anything down on it, but at least you got the live hit there. So nice work. And all right, I guess we move on now. And you mentioned, our next segment talking about preparation. Well, it's all about how to win in 2026. And I think how to win in 2026 has changed since 2025. There's no doubt about it. Things are changing. Things are rapidly evolving in the sports betting landscape in a whole lot of ways. Pace, when we did this last year, there's some sort of basic ways to win that I can go over again very quickly here. So middles, always a great way to find an edge and build a bankroll, especially if you've got multiple books and you can go find the lines and they're not paying a lot of juice. Taking especially basketball. Basketball is probably the best sport to middle in, but for anybody out there who doesn't know what we're talking about, it's taking a game total on one book that says, say, 200.5 in an NBA game, and taking under 202.5 in the same NBA game on another book, and giving yourself a 2-point middle. And you want to take that maybe close towards the end of the game, or end of the quarter, or end of however whatever time limit you're working within for that middle. So middling, always a great way to win. I don't think that's gone anywhere. Arbitrage, the other one, of course, finding, line discrepancies where you could essentially take both sides of the same game and come away with a profit. Lots of ARB opportunities out there, especially among the soft books. So that's always the way to go. But this leads me to something that I want to mention from our sponsor, SX. They made a change to their platform. They called it a capital efficiency update. And essentially what that allows you to do is take the opposite sides of a wager, and your money is returned to you immediately. You don't have to wait for the bet to settle. They're basically saying, hey, look, you've taken both sides of this game. We are ready to pay you out the money that you would have had in it. So let's just say you had a very, very small ARB, which it's difficult to come across on the platform itself to get a real true profitable ARB. But let's just say you bet one side of a game. We'll take the Bills Broncos coming up this week, for example, because that's a nice close game, and one where we saw the line move. So say you were able to get in on the Bills as an underdog, call it plus 105. Now you could go and take the Broncos plus 105, and you would essentially get your $5 paid out to you in profit, along with your $100 investment if you were betting $100 in it. So it's pretty cool. Pace. I actually tried it because they had a little tournament over the weekend too, where it was a volume based tournament. And so I was able to sort of start climbing the leaderboard really easily with just a few $100 and just doing these ARBs over and over again, paying like, a few cents each time in juice. It was kind of cool to climb up the leaderboard, and that I was able to cash very small in that tournament. But it was cool how fast you got your money back. It was instant. It was like as soon as you closed that arb, boom, money in. So that's a great way to go about. Arbitrage always a way to that you can make money. But I would encourage anybody who's on SX to go give that a try. And if you can find real, true, profitable arbs, totally worth it. So have a look, especially if you think the line's going to move.
There's also a really interesting use case for this kind of stuff. I know John, we talked about his futures last week and how beneficial they are, but think about, where you do have some of these longer term bets. There's a big element to like sitting there throughout the season and waiting for bets to settle that are way ahead, or even some books they've won, but they wait till the end of the season to pay them out. And then, things like, hey, I've got, the Niners to win the Super Bowl. If it's placed on that bet and, it's coming down to, the last game or whatever, whatever hedging type things that you want to do instantly equate to value. And then whatever's remaining, right? Like, let's say you have an ARB where you have 3.0 on both sides for whatever reason. Sorry, that's a bad example. 3.5 on one side, 2.0 on the other side. The 2.0 side of it is the efficiency that's naturally and organically going to come back into your account immediately. And then the remaining balance, depending on which side settles, is what will pay out based on the results. So it's just an efficient way to get access to your money quickly. And I think that in the grand scheme of like some of these prediction markets and other things that are going on, that might be something that other places start adopting as well, because it is quite cool, I would say.
Yeah, very cool. Awesome to see it in action. Okay, so middles arbitrage, the classic ways that you can go about finding a way to turn a profit in sports betting in 2026. Those are still there. But now I think this is where we're going to start to sort of see things change a little bit. And this comes with the next one I'm getting to is top-down betting, which is where you're essentially using a source of truth, a sharp book traditionally, like a Pinnacle or a Circa or a Prime bookmaker to inform your decision making, to say this is what the sharp line is, and then you compare that to a soft book, and you look at the line on the soft book and maybe you see that it's off from the sharp book, and you go ahead and you take that bet on the soft book as a way to sort of generate a long-term profit. You might lose the bet on the soft book there, but over the long term, you will very likely profit. Now, what I think has changed, though, and John, I'm going to come to you on this, is what is your source of truth in 2026? Because with the exchanges out there, Kalshi, SX, of course, Polymarket, and I know there's some others. I know some people use Novig, in the States. That's another one. What is your source of truth, John? Has your source of truth changed over the years, and where is it now?
It's a good question. I don't really know that I've ever considered any book to be a source of truth on anything. I think all algorithms can be flawed. Some are definitely going to be more blanketly correct than others. So if you are comparing, say, Bookmaker, Pinnacle to DraftKings, for instance, DraftKings is going to be wrong more, but DraftKings is going to be correct on a subset of things. They're going to be more likely to be right when certain things are going the way that they want them to go. So a lot of those recreational books, you'll see them often skew lines to where like you'll get a better price on a favorite or on a dog there than on a favorite, right? Or you'll get a better price on an under there than on an over. Actually, Hard Rock bet, I was noticing the entire wild card weekend would be a half point higher on every NFL total than everywhere else in the market. And it's like they're just trying. They want only customers who are betting overs,
right?
And so they'll try to limit people who don't bet those things, and then they'll have worse juice for that side on their book. And so, but when there's trends pointing to things going over, then they're actually going to be closer to what the true numbers should be in that instance, right? Chesto sent me a podcast last year about, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but I listened to the episode. I think it's called like The Increments or something like that. But the episode was about how prediction markets converge on the truth. And it was kind of interesting because it is true from like an aggregate standpoint that eventually, you know, they always converge on 99 to 100% on what's going to happen. But they're certainly not any more accurate, especially in the moment when there's information coming in. There's a lot of rapidly changing information. So like the night before the college football playoff selection committee, I remember I brought up that Texas had a higher chance to get in the playoff than Duke did. And Duke had just won the ACC. And it's like, well, they're probably going to find a way to not have Duke in there. They'll put James Madison in, or they'll put Miami in, or they put both in, right, over them. But they will certainly have no way to put Texas in. It is impossible for Texas to get in. But Texas was at like 3%, Duke was at 1%. It's like, this is simply people who want Texas to be in, who are willing to pay a bad price to hope that they can win the lottery when that happens, right? And you see that a lot on prediction markets. So when there was a NHL game last night, I believe it was Carolina, Detroit, I think. Carolina had a 5-on-3. They were down 1 with 4 minutes left, I believe was the situation. And they were like the equivalent of minus 150 to win the game on Kalshi, which is insane because even if they score on the 5-on-3, they'd have to score early enough that they then still had a power play. And even if you had a power play with 2 minutes, with 3 minutes left or whatever for a minute or plus, you still shouldn't be minus 150 in, when you're going to overtime, the line is simply just going to be minus 120, probably at worst, right? And so that was a massive overreaction to it. So it's as far as like when I'm thinking about a source of truth, and that's why I try to build my own models and look at my own things. And I don't know that I'm any more correct, but I at least know that there's a subset of things where I'm finding outliers where what I'm doing is more correct than any other book out there, right?
Right. Okay. So you're saying your source of truth typically is your own models that you've built, and you've built these over time. You're not new to this at all. You've tested these out, and so that's your source of truth. But Pace, what would you say to the people out there that aren't Johns, and they don't do a lot of modeling?
It's an interesting thing, right? So one of my notes that I have here is don't be afraid of big numbers. And what I mean by that are big underdogs or scenarios where the odds are high. And it kind of leads to what John was just saying from the standpoint of if something feels a certain way, and you guys know that I hate that word, like, oh, I felt it. And that's not what I'm referencing. But if something feels a certain way, like, I don't know, let's just take a hockey game where you're like, the goalie's record's better than the team they're playing against. They're on a hot streak. Their opponent isn't. And you keep going through these lists. And I'm not talking about number variance from the standpoint of Pinnacle offering this and Pinnacle's right and 365's offering that and 365's wrong. So bet at Bet 365. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the game itself. Obviously, the price matters. But what I am saying right now is regardless of the price, which of course is a stupid thing to say. The price always matters. But if you can go through a whole series of things where something does genuinely feel wrong and you check all those boxes off and you got to go, do you know more than the sports books? Of course you don't. But there are times where you simply have to trust yourself, especially when you're a live sports bettor, where you go, guys, this just is wrong, right? And in those moments, you might not have the ability to back it with any modeling or anything else, but you got to trust it sometimes, and you got to pull the trigger. And that's where having those scenarios stack up over the course of time and then referencing back to how you've done on those similar scenarios and looking at whether or not you turned a profit, not on the one bet, right? And that's a massive part of how to win long-term, right? Losing doesn't mean that you're wrong. Losing over the long term does, right? So when you look back on the scenario that I just potentially painted out for you and you go, hey, look, it is working. That becomes the source of truth for that particular situation that you felt that something was wrong in. Now, if you take that, whatever example that was, let's say it's a first half overs in indoor stadiums in the NFL with X amount of time remaining when you're getting Y amount of points remaining, right? Typically speaking, if it's blanketed across the league, you probably, I don't want to say you don't have an edge. You probably don't have an edge, but your edge certainly could be higher if you were to able to not blanket the strategy to the league and really pick the finite situations where coaches are outliers, right? And that kind of leads me to back to more of a football discussion. But when you look at the NFL and you rewind the tape 10 years and you think about things like the kickoff, but separately of that, you think about, some of these contracts that have come in where, receivers are getting asinine amounts of money, you're getting paid way more than the rest of their team. You think about players coming up in the whole nil program now, in the transfer portal in college. There is a lot of like this me culture. And I think that fantasy football has put that under the spotlight to a greater degree. And I think social media has as well. So you end up with players that can be selfish in team environments to the detriment of their team, but also to the detriment of what would have worked or been something you may have looked at last year or 10 years ago. So when those changes start to occur, you have to look yourself in the mirror and not blame what's happening in the league. And you have to go, these are no longer bad beats. There is a trend that has occurred that I am losing money to. How can I adjust? Does that mean I need to start looking at the other side? Probably not. And people need to understand that. Like, just back to the social media thing, there's a huge discussion online of like, who's good, who's bad, fade him, tail that, blah, 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 blah. In general, no one's bad enough to fade, right? Like, there's a reason it's minus 110 on both sides. It's so the sports books continue to profit regardless of which side it is that you're on. So when you start looking at the other side of things, sometimes things are simply handicapped correctly. And I have this line over and over again, but sometimes the best bet is the one that you didn't take. So you look at what's changed, you look at the situations, and then you go, who are the outliers in this spot? Why does this trend continue to happen with this one coach or in this one, pocket of the league or division, depending on the sport, all that kind of stuff. And that's where you can start to really, hone in on some value. So, I think like when it comes to that source of truth type thing, if you genuinely are someone that devotes your time to this, like the three of us and a lot of our listeners, sometimes you have to trust what it is that you're seeing and simply execute on that as your source of truth.
Wow.
Yeah. I like that.
Go ahead, John.
No, I said I like that. And I would add as well that maybe two things before we advance. But the one thing I think you can look at is a source of untruth. So if there's a book that's always off of the rest of the market by a certain amount on a certain thing, that's much easier to know that they're wrong versus trying to find one book that's always correct.
Right, that's a good point. Yeah, very good point. Yeah.
So find those and exploit those, but then also what Pace said, you can't always handicap every game in the moment with actual numbers and everything. And if you do, there's a good chance you're overfitting whatever you're doing because you're looking only at the sample of one game. And there's nobody out there that's modeling any of the main sports where you can bet a lot of money. I'm sure there's people out there modeling like low-level women's college basketball where they could blind bet a model on every game and win. But in the NFL, it's impossible. The lines are too sharp. You can't bet every single game on the spread and win. You will just bleed juice. Same in the NBA, probably most college basketball, NHL. So you can't have these blanket strategies. You have to find subsets where there's discrepancies in the market and attack those.
You know what's also interesting about that, John, is like if I take a look at 3 years ago in the NFL, we look at our first quarter spreads. So we were betting a lot of first quarter spreads in the NFL 2 years ago for sure, but definitely 3 years ago. And our ROI on the season on our first quarter spreads was north of 30%, like absolutely printing money.
Yep.
Though the challenge was you couldn't just blindly bet them from the standpoint of going, it's a little early, it's a little late, all that. No, you couldn't do that. But if there was a pocket of time left in the quarter and a team was at a specific point on the field, you could blindly bet them. And back then, it wasn't about handicapping that situation at all. It was simply about getting the bets. So like for me, having a TV wall with all 9 games on when you had a busy Sunday morning was imperative, because that allowed me to provide the information to people as best as I possibly could, as well as myself for betting, to get those bets in. Fast forward 3 years later, tons of teams are not kicking field goals and turning the ball over, leading to less success on the things that we were doing because we required the team to score when we did this. That's number one. Then number two, sports books. Whenever you have a situation where it's just simply about getting the bet in, nothing really else. If you're getting the bet in, you're getting 25% plus ROI, they're going to adjust. So you look at it today, and that sort of like, I just got to get the bet in panic is not a way to win at anything in 2026 anymore. Think about a hockey slate 5 years ago, right? Where you're getting like these puck lines at like 3.0, 3.5 for any team up one in the NHL. Well, they're like minus 110 now, right? And to John's point, sometimes on Kalshi, they'll be like minus 150 or higher because the public's like, oh, the net's going to be empty. They're going to score a goal. It's an empty net. They always score an empty net, right? And it's like, well, actually, it's less than 40% this season, and it's paying, 2.0 or 2.1 or minus 110 or, whatever it is. So, you take the quarter example or any of these other examples. If you're rushing into bets, if you're panicking into bets, if you're thinking, I just need to get the bets, you've already lost. You have to be remarkably selective. And in order to be remarkably selective, it actually means that some of the good opportunities that I'm referencing, you let go because you didn't care about them anymore. It wasn't like this manic, frantic thing that you're doing. So patience.
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. That was, I remember when I first joined in Play Live and having that feeling of, oh, they called this, I got to get it in. They called this, I got to get it in. And I know a lot of people, when they join the community, they very likely go through those motions of thinking, oh, they called this, I got to get this, I got to get that, and you learn over time that you really do just want to take it easy, evaluate the bet yourself, and then decide if you really want to get in. Most of the time, rushing to it isn't the answer.
Yeah, I would say that maybe the strategy that you could argue is a bit of a counter to that is what you open with, Shane. So like if you're really good with middles and arbitrage, that can be a race to market. That can be a race to market.
Because those will change.
That. Yeah. And I do understand that. And if you're efficient and really strong at that, your efficiency as a bettor is probably the edge itself, not anything else, right? Like, because that stuff, even if it's pregame, can oftentimes, only be a first handful of people to the counter that are able to get it.
Yeah. Okay. Pace, a lot of what you touched on there was really kind of getting granular with the data, and instead of blanketing things, really zoning in and focusing on key scenarios. And in order to do that, you need to be able to see it. Whatever it may be, the stats you're looking at, the teams, the data, whatever data points you need to sort of analyze to come to the conclusions. How can we leverage technology in 2026 to better get a clearer picture of that data? And so, AI, of course, is out there. People are using it in all facets of life these days. But there's other sort of technology as well. I bring up our sponsor SX because they do have bots being used on the platform to provide liquidity, and they're also taking bets. And I know that I've posted lines that were taken by bots to my advantage, as the human in this transaction. So, John, when it comes to technology, being a guy who models, What are you looking at perhaps to leverage to a greater degree, greater efficiency in 2026?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think one thing I'm looking to leverage a lot more is real time information in as it relates to the games that I'm trying to bet live. So there's a lot of things that I look at before a game. We actually have several people in the community that do this, but looking at specific parts of a game, if it's a basketball game, a hockey game, whatever, or an NFL game as it relates to betting certain markets, certain times in the games for certain teams, players, all of that. So I want to also look at situations. So it's like one thing to say, oh, this player gets most of his catches in the fourth quarter. It's like, well, that can only be true if they're losing the game. If a team's winning by 30, I bet his chance of getting most of his yards in that game is not in the fourth quarter is not good. But that's an obvious dumb example. You don't need data to leverage to figure that out, right? But there's situations I think in, let's say, the NBA where so think about SGA when the Thunder were on that crazy win streak early in the year, right? I think it was something like he had played in less than half of the fourth quarters that his team had played in. So like he hadn't even played in 10 fourth quarters and they had already played over 20 games because they were blowing everybody out so much T-Way didn't even have to play, but he was still averaging 30 points a game. So if you were, instead of betting his points over under, you'd be better off going and finding those markets on like FanDuel's or whatever, where you could bet quarter points for a player. And I bet if you parlayed his first quarter, second quarter, third quarter points over with his points under for the game, it probably paid something astronomical. And I bet that there's ways of, leveraging things like that. So that's just like an example of something that I think I want to look more into, but just have it where I can look at, okay, given this situation in this game, what do I expect for the third quarter, for the fourth quarter? I already do a little bit of that, but it's a lot more of like manually eyeballing what's going on in the box score as the game goes on, and then tying that up to what I have as a pregame analytics package. But I'd like to get more automated and bringing a lot of that stuff in real time this year.
Sounds like a 90-1 Nick Chubb type thing.
Yeah.
but in all seriousness, when we are doing that stuff, it's small money that we risk, right? But what we are looking at is specifically what John just said, right? So building a game script that then, if comes true, your wager then having, a real chance at winning that pays quite a bit. And I think this is a really, really important philosophy for people to embrace in 2026. And it's not referencing some crazy payout. You need to be right at a degree that provides profit. So if you are betting like for some people like big favorites, they like minus 200s and minus 500s and things like that. That's fine, but you have to recognize that you have to be right all the time, right? You have to be 9 out of 10 type stuff with some of these numbers, sometimes to break even, right? So I personally tend not to bet that way. I think In Play Live in its early years was really big on some of that stuff because of how mispriced things were late in any type of game, dribbling out in NBA where, you see them dribbling out and hopefully there isn't a pass to some scrub taking his only shot of the season that happens to go in. But, someone dribbling out in the NBA, kneels being taken on the field in the NFL. For the most part, that stuff is all gone. So the, sort of the minus 1,000, 1.1 free money culture has left the industry as a whole. I love bets where you don't have to be right all the time and can still profit a lot. So, looking at big plus money scenarios and whether it's live, pregame, whatever it is, building a game script to fulfill that and, handicapping the probability on the fly. Like, hey, I think this should pay 5. It pays 9, right? That type of stuff and trusting it. And that's where, obviously money management comes in a big, big way. But this is the philosophy that I want people to embrace. Big favorites losing aren't bad beats. They're bad bets. And you need to take that with you so that you getting ahead because someone that should win and then going on to lose, and that type of stuff happening where you go, okay, that leg won, or okay, I won. And the favorites give you a little bit of mojo because you actually do see wins coming in, but you're not winning at a rate to sustain profit long term. And that's so important to take that into the year and into the future.
Yeah. And I think you're mainly, talking about pregame betting there, right? And pregame betting.
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay. I think the philosophy applies to heavily to live betting as well.
Yeah. And not betting them just because they're the favorite.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I'll just add this story. So then in the Rams game, I had a buddy in the same thread as the lock of the century where he had the Rams first half -6.5 or whatever the line was, something huge. And they didn't cover that, obviously. And he said it was a bad beat because of the pass, that touchdown that Puka dropped. That was like a walk-in touchdown towards the end of the half. And so that was his justification for it being a bad beat. And I said, well, the Panthers gave your team the ball twice in range and you still didn't cover a line. That to me, that means that was the wrong side. If you needed a play at the end of the half to cover your bet, despite getting given points or given field position for free, like both touchdowns in that half were given off of turnovers by the Panthers on their own side of the field. That's a bad bet. It's not a bad beat. If you still couldn't cover and you needed a bomb at the end of the half to cover, it's not a bad beat.
So, right. and perhaps all of us need this lesson, and myself included. But don't justify the bet after. I do it all the time. But if you can simply let your results speak for themselves, you don't have to worry about explaining what should or should not have happened or was not a good bet. Did the Brooklyn situation suck? Yeah. Do I need to explain that to you as a bettor? Hey guys, they're double dribbling out. We've pretty much won. Yay. Oh fuck, they shot. We lost. And won? Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, it happened. Yeah, we're human. We're going to react. But all of us have to be, unfortunately, you want humanity to be human, but all of us in those moments have to be a little bit less human. We talk about technology and, think about the standpoint of having a bot trading on your behalf. So it's placing the bets on all the prediction markets, which we've seen. And that's why, Shane, like when we looked at those charts of that Steelers game and it's like touchdown in the Steelers line, was it the Lions? Yeah.
Touchdown. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Touchdown. And as he says touchdown, the 3-second delay of all the prediction markets going to 100% for the Lions, right? That's all auto trading happening. And then it's like, however, and then you see it go back to 50%, thinking, oh, there might be one more play still. And then the game is over. And then the chart going completely the other way. So if you think about someone trading on your behalf in that fashion and they got that game wrong, right? You wouldn't care because you wouldn't even know that was a trade. You would simply look at your portfolio growing or not, right? And we as bettors, we live that moment. Whereas like if you do have someone trading on your behalf, you don't live the moment. You only see what the numbers are at the end of the day, the week, the month, etc. Right? And I think that if you can embrace that while you're betting, where you go, shit, that one sucked. But imagine it wasn't me trading this or dealing with the emotional elements of this. And I simply looked at this as one of the many moments that occur throughout the day, the week, the month, the year. All of a sudden it's again, these bad beats that people talk about, they're not bad beats because we're so used to that just happening in sports. A quarterback kneeling out being a bad beat. You just move on from it. And it's one of the many trades that, you're going to make throughout the year.
Yeah. Pacer, I want to get back to the conversation around technology, how we're using it, how to develop it, digging into data and that kind of thing. I know, In Play Live is looking at using technology in a greater way going forward. Is there anything that you want to share with the people at this time?
Yeah, so absolutely. So I think the first thing is that I'm a terrible guy to talk about technology with betting, which also makes me a great guy to talk about technology and betting because I'm not, a software engineer or someone that has, I guess, come up like needing a ton of data
Right.
to succeed. So obviously, technologically speaking, it's like you have your betting set up, and I've always been a guy that like has a cool setup and has made that a part of the success or the journey. We live in a world right now where we have remarkable access to data, and a lot of the ways that you can win from betting, the data isn't necessarily readily available. So you do have to build it yourself. You do have to, as John alluded to, do some modeling and handicapping yourself where you don't look at a certain sports book as a source of truth. So with what we do at In Play Live, making things accessible to the community and the people that are aspiring to get access to those types of things is definitely a priority for us from the standpoint of knowing that harnessing the data and information that we all have collectively being able to take us to the next level. So it isn't something that's in talks. We've been working on this for quite a while now, and it'll definitely soft launch and start to roll out throughout this year. So, will that make or break your success? Maybe. It might be the very thing that takes you to the next level. So, having access to things that help your betting that you can lean on and that can help you in situations where you go. Kind of what I was touching on earlier. You start checking off all these boxes and then you just have that one extra one now where you go, oh, that's a great bet, or, oh, I'm actually not going to take this one. I know that's been massive for me in my betting where I do kind of have these technological crutches that I can lean on. And I go, you know what? I can't just handicap this with my eyes as much as I like to say that I do that. This data is really the backbone of how I'm going to handle things. And then with the eye test on top, it really will take that opportunity to the next level from a confidence standpoint. So what I think the simple message here is, if you are a sports bettor looking to take things to the next level in 2026, technology as simple as taking notes in your phone can be a game changer. So start incorporating it in the simplest ways possible that are repeatable and become habits that will benefit you over the long term. This applies not to sports betting, but to everything in life. If there's anything that you can do to make you 1% better, you don't feel the effects of it in the short term, right? So like if Shane, you and I go to the gym for the first time tomorrow, we don't look any skinnier the next day. But if we do that for 365 days, we're going to look a lot different at this time next year, right? If you read a book for 10 minutes every single night when you've never read before, the first few times it might be a little bit annoying, but at the end of the year, you're going to have learned so much that other people did not, right? So the list goes on and on with this 1% type stuff. So anything that you can do technologically that can enhance your betting, make yourself 1% better today. And by the end of the year, you'll be in a totally different ballgame than where you are today.
Well, Pace, I hope that's true for betting, because I can tell you that it may not be true for exercise, dude. I work out all the time with my kids. I play sports all the time, dude. I do not lose any weight ever. I have to grind just to not get fatter. So I don't know that I'll ever get thinner, Pace. It's just the belly fat's going nowhere.
Shane, you look great, buddy. Your heart is healthy, I'm sure.
Yeah, right. There we go. No, but great stuff on the betting side, and I look forward to sort of seeing what IPL rolls out through the year. I think that's some exciting stuff in the works that's going on behind the scenes. So for everybody that's in the community, guys, keep an eye out for that, because I know that there's some really big things coming that way. And if you're not in the community, hey, Pace, great time to remind people they can join streams, and we've got a lot of people joining the streams that are just joining for one day a week, couple days a week. They're popping in, they're seeing what's happening, getting some bets with us, getting some wins lately, that's for sure, and then maybe piecing out for a week and then coming back again. It's a cool way to just get a flavor of what we're doing.
Yeah, so there was like 22 new people on our stream last night, which is quite a large number, the largest we've seen since we launched. So essentially, what we've done for January, and this is kind of my commitment to the betting world. We've held our cards so close to our chest, and the reason that we've done that is because, yeah, you want to protect your edges, but from the standpoint of In Play Live, we were like, this is what we're doing, and you essentially have to pay to get access to it. That still holds truth to it, but I don't believe blanket strategies are effective anymore. So if people know what we're doing, I'm kind of like, okay, great. Doesn't really bother me one way or the other, because I know that you have to be a pretty smart guy and have a pretty good team to be able to succeed, even if you do know what you're doing and you're not in our community. So yeah, for 2026, we've basically just blown the lid off, and for January you can just join for free. Right, so we have you can join us for our In Play Live Lite for a stream a week for free, so that we can help you get started on your betting journey in 2026. So if anyone needs details about that, it's probably best to just check us out on Instagram. But yeah, you can start your live betting journey. You can learn what it is that we're doing, because we're committed to making sports bettors better. Period.
Love it. John, anything to add?
No, just hope to see more new faces. Enjoy working with people in the community and helping people become profitable. We had some people hit some huge milestones lately in the group, so it's been an exciting couple of weeks as we've been crushing it. So hoping some more people get in there that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Shout out Eggs. Great job, buddy. Nice work. As one of the latest to join a 7-figure club. Maybe one day I'll get there. Fingers crossed.
You'll
I'll
get
keep
there,
working
Shane.
with you guys.
Yeah.
All right, guys. A lot of fun chatting with you. But until next week, Pace, John, sports bettors around the world, keep beating those books. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Behind the Lines. Remember to like, download, and subscribe. We are on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and everywhere you get your podcasts. Have a betting story or want to be featured on our podcast? Drop a note in the comments below. And if you want to join In Play Live, use promo code Behind the Lines.